meeting on ECOTALES. Today we review the pre-production work that's in progress. Today is the 12th September 2024. We'll look at the review, the thumbnail storyboards for Act 1, 2, and 3. I want us to look at the visual storyboards and then the character design. So, welcome. The first thing that we need to be clear on is that we are reading from the same page, and this is because I will be introducing now at this point other people into the production cycle to help us to get the work done. And animation is done in a participatory way. We have to be a team, and the team has to work together. So I'm going to share my screen to show everyone this link. This is the link I've posted in the chat of this meeting. But it brings you to this web page. And it's a straightforward web page. But the way I'm building it up is, I hope you can see my screen, is that the ideation phase, there are 4 phases, but the ideation phase is the one we're on. And you can see that it covers the, one second. It covers the brief, where everything starts, the client brief, and it moves to the synopsis of the story, which is essentially a response to the brief. So, as we know, but for clarity, we have a client's brief. The client briefs us. Normally, the brief is unprofessional. It doesn't cover the full scope of information we need to know in order for us to do the job. So, we have to interrogate the brief. In other words, we have to ask the client questions. And in some cases, the client doesn't know how to respond even or to answer the questions in a useful way. So we have to interpret their response by converting whatever they tell us into a professional language that allows us now to get into production. Okay, so that's really what we do with the brief. It's a very critical stage. And so I do this interpretation business because I have oversight of the entire process. And then my job is to convert what the client is saying into this production pipeline. So that's what I'm doing. But that's in here. The client's brief is interpreted, but it's also stated from the client's perspective. Now, not always does the client write down the brief. In fact, in most cases, clients don't write down the brief. But in this case, they didn't. So either way, we have to write it. If they write it, no. If they don't write it, no problem. We have to write it. So I've written the brief, and then it's based on what they've said. They've accepted it as being a correct brief. That's what they're saying. But our interpretation of it may be unrecognizable to the client, but it's recognizable to us. I mean, fully. They may recognize part of it, but it's in a technical language, so they may not understand the technical meaning of it. So for us, it has meaning. So that interpretation is necessary. So from the interpretation of the brief, now comes the synopsis. Now, this synopsis and story, as we know, is written in a way that lay people can read and understand. So the client can read and understand the synopsis and can read and understand the story. Now, what's the difference for production purposes of the synopsis and the story? The synopsis incorporates the drama with the client's message. The client's message is articulated in the brief. And then sometimes they give you an indication of the drama, but not always. But we have an idea of the drama. The drama is essentially our solution, but the complete solution comprises the drama and the message. So that synopsis is key, again, to the whole process. Okay? Then we move to the story. Now, the story is the drama. It's the story without the message. That's the story. Now, it may have the elements of the message, but the focus is not so much on the message. It's not on that. It's on the drama, it's on the story. The synopsis has equal focus. It's balanced. It tries to bring out both so that the client can see that this is it. You see? And then we move to the script. Now, by the time we move to the script, we're adapting the story to the screen. And the message should be now well contained within the script. And we use the script as an instrument to deliver the message. If we understand that relationship, we're good to go. That's what the script does. It delivers on the message. Now, this is central to the client's interest, so we can't lose it. The story must be interesting. It must be to the audience. It must be motivating. It must make them want to do stuff, and the stuff they want to do should be aligned to the message. All right, so that's how the script is written. Then we test all that to make sure it's doing that, or the extent to which it's doing that. Okay, so that's now the script. Then once we have that, we don't have our Bible, but at least we have the basis for building our Bible. But the next thing we need is the mood boards. I put the mood boards here. If I click on this link, it opens up the mood board. Even if I click on the script right here, this one, it opens up the script. Let's open up these. Okay, now you can see right now it's not opened a single mood board. There are 3 mood boards for Act 1, 2, and 3. So that's fine. So we double click on this, then it opens up Act 1. Yeah, now this is the mood board. Okay, so I can see something here. Okay, all right. Okay, so that's something. So what I'd like us to do in the next exercise is to populate this mood board. And as you can see, it's simply trying to capture the ambience of the scenes, like this Act 1. It has several scenes, but this is now what we're trying to capture. So if you see something there that strikes you as being part of scene 1 from the shot perspective, but let's not talk of the shot. Let's talk of the objects, what we see on the scene. So the mood that it portrays, it's like this is an ant's eye view that we're looking at right here. That's very important because we have an ant's eye view scene. Then we have this aerial view. I'm not sure how important it is. I'm not sure, unless it's an establishing shot. Even this one looks establishing from a distance. And it may not be useful because we're in the middle of town. So this one may not work, you see. And this is what I need us to discuss. The kind of backgrounds that will work. Because the team, that the next step is involving increasing the size of the team. And there's going to be someone devoted to backgrounds. And this mood board will mean a lot to them because they'll get a sense of how we are thinking. So Nicholas as the writer and Purity as the storyboard artist, and you're also working on characters, come up with environmental backgrounds, ambience that will speak now to what you're thinking so that we can sit down and discuss. You see, like this is an aerial scene. So I don't see how aerial scenes help except when we're establishing, which is fine. So you can populate it with anything that you think works. There's no restriction. It's just a mood. Now, Act 1, Scene 2 has not been done. Act 1, Scene 3 has not been done. And then, of course, now there's Act. If we go back here, there's Act 2. You double click on this. Yeah. So I need these populated before I bring in the team. But I'm starting to bring in the team from Saturday. So I start to share these links and start to talk to them about it. So I really need us to make sure there's something here, not nothing. Like right now, there's nothing here. I come here to the mood board for Act 3, and there's nothing here. So these need to have something. Now we have a sense of the story, so we should be able to put in stuff. The client commented on something, this one of shadows of the hidden truth. He just asked me a question, what do you mean by shadows? But he was asking it in a pejorative way, which means negative way. He was wondering about using a term that might, for him, feel negative. I haven't asked him what is negative about shadows and the hidden truth. So he wants us to, he's asking, let me put it that way, he's asking. So the client can't spread everywhere. Remember, this client is actually a Hindu community, like a church, but this is a mosque, or let's call it a temple. And this is temple money. So for them, they have a strong religious background. That's the client. They're a board that represents a temple, but a community of religious people, and they're Hindus. So there are, with religious organizations, there are many places they don't go, and certain things they don't say. So there's all that. So expect a lot of control in terms of the themes and also the language because they're religious. There's that. So I'm not sure why he questioned this title, but I'll find out from him. And with that in mind, he may question other things. So we just need to work with them and see what their limits are. And we can't make a boring story, but at the same time, we don't want to violate their beliefs. If we violate their beliefs, then they will not want to sponsor it. Okay, so that's just a comment. But we do need to populate this so that we can have this. Now the client is traveled. They're coming back this weekend. They'll be around next week. So everything's happening now. I need this populated sooner than later. If let's say we're meeting next Thursday and you populate it on Wednesday, you see, I may have meetings with the new crew coming in and the client before you populate it. And that's not the best. It's better when they see that the work that's done. And it really affects how we solicit money from the client also. Because clients want to pay for work done. That's the preference. They don't want to pay for work that you will do. They want to pay for work done. So when we show them that some work has been done, then we can start talking of them giving a deposit. That's the attitude of clients right now. I mean, it's not always been like that, but that's how it is right now. So if you want to understand the relationship between work and money, this is one of those moments. Complete this. So when we're making the early presentations, they feel a compulsion to pay because when we've already invoiced, we've already we've already quoted, we've given them quotations twice, so they've agreed to the pricing in general, but a deeper discussion is needed so that we can invoice. But the invoicing is going to now be determined by work done. You see, so if we have a body of work done that the client sees is invoiceable or payable, then they'll be inclined to do it. We don't have to wrestle with them. If the work is not sufficient, then you're wrestling with them, trying to get them to accept. But it's a wrestling match because they're feeling it's not sufficient. You see, but it's always nicer to have it sufficient. So this is an easy one. I don't think it's difficult to do these mood boards. Just do them, and then we have them. Coming back to this one. Yeah, the script is okay. This doesn't have issues. We're just waiting for the client to give us feedback. And once the client gives us feedback, then corrections will come on that. But I did want to comment on the issues that the client raised was one on the shadows of the hidden truth, that title, and then also the issue of the authorities. So they were concerned that they don't want to have issues with the government. So we need to find another way of portraying the problem, even if the problem is authority, maybe not governmental authority or city council authority, but some kind of authority on the ground. That can be acceptable. But then we have to move away from direct referencing of the government. Then that way they'll feel safe. Okay? So if that's understood, we can keep that. That's a story issue. Now, reference boards. So I'm going to discuss this with the new crew coming in for the reference boards. And these reference boards are to help us develop the storyboard. And these are shots, but they're shots that help to sort of give us a sense of how the story will be implemented, all right, or how it will be applied. So it's just a guide. But just like the mood board is guiding emotional appeal, this one is guiding more of the function of the story. The story has a function and it goes along an arc like that. And so the shorts should give us a sense of that arc, just because it's kind of framing each scene in a way that dramatizes the scene and captures the message. So it's more functional than it is emotive. So we have this. Now, these are things you see online, maybe photos you might want to take. That's all in play. But let's have it as a reference board. And that guides the storyboard artist, actually. This one guides the storyboard artist. Where the mood board also helps to guide the storyboard artists, but it guides the character designers as well. You know, anyone who's working on a scene will be guided by the mood board. This one will guide more the storyboard artist. Okay, so let's have them done. Let's have them done anyway, so that that can also be seen to be a complete body of work. And then we have this the shortlist. Okay, shortlist I saw was done, so I put it here. Animation work doesn't typically have a shortlist. This is more film that has this, but animation work we don't do shortlists. We do the storyboard. So straight, you can have a reference board just to get some images, some ideas visually, and then go straight into storyboarding. So the storyboard becomes our shortlist. But having this, there's no harm in it. It's just I don't see it in animation work, but having it is not a bad thing. So it's fine. We have it. It's all right. I wouldn't emphasize it like come in and correct it because changes are happening to the story, the script, and changes are going to come on the thumbnails and even on the storyboard. I don't think we should change this shortlist. It can be what it is for now. You can even put a date here for now so that we know it was okay on September.
Also, that's an older version.
It's an older version. Okay. So you have a newer version, huh? All right.
There's like
Mm.
I did this on like the very first weeks.
Okay. So if you want to update this file, you see this file, if you go to the folders down here, these ones, if I go down to these idea boards, maybe ideation, it might be in, maybe it's in pre-production. Yeah. Yeah, shortlist is here. Yeah, if you simply overwrite this for Act 1, you come in here and overwrite it, it will retain the URL, the link that we're seeing here. Where is it? This link we're seeing here for shortlist will be retained just because you overwrote it by copying that on top of it. So that's okay. But normally we don't like overwriting files. It's better to version manage, which means someone has to manage this page and change the link to target the new thing, which is the normal way. But in this case, because the shortlist is not so critical, it's okay for you to overwrite what's there and to update it so that we don't have to spend time on it. There are many things we have to spend time on here, but we shouldn't spend time on the shortlist. Okay, so now we're on these storyboard thumbnails. Very important as I recruit new people because these are animators I'm bringing in. So if you have this thumbnail, this is what will speak to the animators very strongly, the thumbnail and the script. So those two are key as we now move on to the now storyboard itself. Okay, and this storyboard moves us into storyboarder. We'll use the software for that. Build this one. There'll be two versions. One which has, you could say, no background. One which has no background. And then the final one will have a background. So you'll have the actors with the background. Okay, so we have what we'll call the storyboard roughs, just with the characters in the middle ground. And then we'll have the final storyboard, which I'll add it to this list. This one I'll just call the roughs. Then the final storyboard, which I'll call the storyboard artworks, will have the background. Once we've worked out the moods and we've understood what the backgrounds are, we'll have someone handling the backgrounds as per the storyboard. So they'll develop those and they'll be merged. So Purity, if you're doing this storyboard, like now, you move from thumbnails to storyboard, you need to, of course, tell your story from a series of shots, and that's a discussion we'll have. But it's going to, those will be considered the round one. I just call them roughs, but then or sketch. But then after that will come the artworks, where you'll now underlay the background. When you underlay the background, now it looks like a complete body of work. Then now we have the full thing. All right. The client doesn't have this storyboard is technical. We'll give it to them, but they will not make sense of it. But we'll give it to them anyway. What they'll make sense of and comment on and give us feedback on is actually going to be the animatic. So the storyboard will accompany the animatic to the client. For us, the storyboard is the Bible. That's what we go by. But the animatic is what makes sense to the client. So we have to put those two together because the client has to give us approval on the storyboard. But by commenting on the animatic, which comes directly from the storyboard, they will be now giving us feedback on the storyboard. Okay, so that is how to understand what's going on here. So straight after this, we're going to shift our attention to these animatics. All right. Now, character designs are important, for approval purposes. These ones. We need to agree on those. And who are the main characters, who are the supporting characters, which characters are featured. We have to agree and we have to draw them, we have to have them. So these character sheets are going to also be part of the thing. But this is where the new team that's coming in is going to start from. They need to come in and see that we have the thumbnails done. They need to see that Purity, you're presenting this storyboard to them, in stages. So you'll do the various levels of the roughs, and then you'll do the various levels of the final, while they're working on these characters. All right. At the same time, they'll also be working on. There'll be an artist working on the background. I've not put the background here, so I'll add the background. There'll be someone working on that. All right. Now, in terms of speed, I'd like us. Character designs is a big job. Storyboard design is a big job. In fact, storyboard is central. Character is very important. So, big jobs can take 2 weeks. You see, it can take up to that long. But I'd like us to be able to present something every week. So the next big job that you have, Purity, is to now move to the storyboard. And you can build up on the thumbnails to produce this storyboard. And when the team comes, I'd like them to work on your characters where you had left it, to now flesh out the characters in the look and feel that we want. All right. Now, this is a transmedia project, which means that animation is only one medium that we're using. So there's the way the characters look for animation, the way they look for comics, and the way they look on social media. So this character design will cut across the media. But the animation is the lead artifact. It's the main object that guides everything else. So the story, let's say on the comic, and also what goes in social media, is feeding off the animation story. So the animation story is the core. So they'll come in and work on this. Now, when you finish what you're doing on the storyboard, Purity, then I'll assign you a character also, so that you're also developing your character and working on that character through the production. And of course, from there, we're going to move to the voice. All this is voice. To produce an animatic, we need sound. So we'll record the sound effects. We'll get that. So Nicholas, this is your part. This animatic is your part. That you need to get the sound effects. Purity will give you the storyboard frames, the roughs, and then the finals. But you need to identify your sound effects. We need to identify the voiceovers. We need to identify those for the characters. And then we need to, of course, by then we have locked down the script, because we need to prepare a voice script that we're going to record the characters' voices from, real characters. Okay, so we're going to do that. And then, of course, we need a soundtrack. It's not so much music as per se, it's just track which we associate as a signature tune to this production. So there'll be a bit of it in the opening sequence, like the montage, the opening montage for the whole thing. And then there'll be generic versions of that throughout the episode, and it doesn't, there are highs, there are lows, there's drama, there's excitement, there are quiet moments. That soundtrack has these different tones or ups and downs. You need to pick a track that has enough of variation so that we can use it. So that's what you need for developing your animatics, so that you can arrange the track in a way that can work, let's say, for the story. Okay. Where we have anticipation, the track should be also having anticipation in it. Where we have, let's say, a fight, the track should be also violent, like it's a fight. Things like those. Where there's a scary moment, danger, the track should be danger, like that. All right, so just start thinking of that, because that's what comes up after these are done, but they can happen simultaneously, so that you have ample time to get your sound files or your sound design sorted out. Okay, so for the recording of voices, we're going to hire a professional studio, where we'll go and record the voices. And if the soundtrack requires a professional musician, we'll hire a professional musician to do it. If we work with library music, that's okay, because if we get the rights to library music, we're okay with that. We'll just pay for the rights, the copyright, and then we use that. Anything that needs us to pay, content we need copyright, buy in order for us to use, we will buy for this one. That's why we're charging the client. So just identify it and then say it so that we can now budget it and go ahead and purchase it. Okay, so that is pre-production. It's going to end with the animatics, but it means the sound design is done. Of course, the storyboard's done, but everything else, like the characters, are also done. There will be a final treatment that is done to show the client what a typical frame in scene one, let's say act one, act one, scene two, act one, scene three would look like. And the same for act two and act three. So it'll be 9 renders to show the client how a typical scene in each one of those acts, or let's say a typical scene in each one of those acts would look like. That's now the last thing in the pre-production. So they should approve these things. Once they have approved the animatic, for example, then they need to approve the treatment. And once that's approved, now we go into production. Okay, so that's what I needed us to understand, so that you understand the timelines. And because I'm bringing on the people I'm bringing on early are actually students. I'm not bringing on the professionals yet, but I'll bring them on for production. So the students are essentially helping me to prepare for production. That's really what we're doing here. You're helping me to prepare for production. So to be ready for production, the professionals now need to have a script. They need to have things like a layout. I'll show you about the layout. So that comes after we're done with the treatment. But they need to have a pre-visualization, which I'll show you as well. We'll have all that ready so that when they come, they can now start to produce the animation according to the specifications they find on the ground. These are specification sheets that guide them. So we need to prepare those. We have to obviously have brainstormed everything to know exactly what the story is about. We need to have gone back and forth with the client until the client says, yeah, I'm happy with this. That kind of thing has to be worked out. So when we bring on the professionals, all they're doing is animating according to the drama, the story, and the flow, which should be clear to them in the layout of our drawings. And our drawings are a guide. If that's clear, but let me just open it up. If you have questions on it before we move, let me know. Just ask anything, I'll answer. If it's not clear, let me know, and I'll also explain. Do you have anything you'd like to suggest? Nothing? Are you able to hear me?
I don't have anything yet.
Yeah, Nicholas, you able to hear? All right. Okay, so there is something I need to now mention, which is important. I think it's growing up in importance with every production we're doing, is the use of AI in this production line. We need to use the AI. And the reason why I'm saying we need to use it is largely because what AI is now doing is it's knocking on the door of production by saying some of these stages it can do. That's number one. Number two, when AI says it can do it, it's trying to suggest it can lower the cost. And it's not lowering the cost slightly, it's lowering the cost dramatically. And that's important because for us to remain competitive in our pricing, with other people are doing these things as well. But for us to compete, if they're using AI and we're not using AI, then their cost of their production line drops. Ours will remain expensive. But vice versa. If I think of it positively, if we use it and they don't, then ours will drop and theirs won't. So we become competitive when we're costing the job. So we have to, as we speak, start thinking where can we infuse AI into this process. So far, there's nothing that I've said here that really uses AI, especially in a time-saving way. I mean, you can use AI, but if AI is going to take you as long or even longer than it takes you to do it without AI, then the AI is not helpful. But one way in which the production pipeline here is going to be affected by AI is if AI automates certain things that are manual in a way that does them quicker at a lower cost. That's a great gain in efficiency. So let me suggest one of the most expensive things on the pipeline is the cost of sound. Sound costs 20% of the animation price. In fact, at 20%, it's the second highest cost here. The highest cost is the animation cost itself, the movement cost. But the sound cost costs 20% of the cost. So AI is coming in strong and saying that these voiceovers, it can regenerate them. It can even generate them. But AI voices sound very dry. So in some ways, that's useless. We don't want a dry voice. But what AI is now saying is that it'll take the voiceover of anyone we've recorded and use that voiceover with the acting and enhance the acting or change the acting, but it's based on a voice we have already selected. Now, the beauty of that is that the voice will have a Kenyan accent, which is important. Otherwise, the moment the accent is not recognizable to a Kenyan, then the question comes to the audience like, is this Nigerian or South African? They're trying to get the context for it. And that shifts everything because now, if they see it as Nigerian, then the messaging will be received as though it's an exotic thing. It's not us, it's not here. It may affect negatively the impact of the message, you see. So we want to immerse the audience into this story in such a way that they think that that's me, that's a snapshot of my life. In fact, that's my friend. It's a real slice of life. That's the effect we want. Because if they feel that this is me and they can immerse themselves in the story, then there's every chance it will translate to some kind of transformation in their behavior, but at least some level of learning. It will educate them to some extent. So we want to immerse them. And we don't want to break the immersion. So using someone who sounds Kenyan, sounds local, is using local colloquium, local language like Sheng, stuff like that is important at this stage. So what I'm proposing is that let's use the AI for the purpose of revoicing voiceovers and see how that works. And the goal, in my view, is to make sure the voice is convincing, number one, that it doesn't seem different from the real voice. We're simply revoicing and then exaggerating, enhancing, whatever. But at the same time, it is cost effective. The goal has to be that it's cost effective and it works. So we try that. If we do that and we lower the cost of recordings, it will save us on the production cost, and then we become more competitively priced. So that's a massive thing. It will also save us on time because we can start doing things quicker ahead of time. You see, oftentimes what happens is that we're waiting. Like you can't create this animatic until the voiceover recording is done. You can't do the voiceover recording until the studio is booked and they're ready. The studio won't be booked unless we pay. That can delay. And at the same time, all actors have to synchronize. If all these things don't happen, there's so much codependency, then the creation of the animatic is delayed. So to avoid that, AI can come in and we can close gaps using AI while waiting now for the, at least while waiting for everyone to come together. So that's how I'm looking at that. That's one. Number two, character design. Character design is troublesome because traditionally, like even at this stage, for us to do characters for a production like this one, I'd get professional animators. I mean, seasoned animators, not even professional necessarily, but seasoned, experienced people who've done this for a long time and specialize in character design. Those are the kind of people we normally get. Now, those guys are expensive. So even by the time you're getting them, you have to have a clear sense of your character because you can't engage them for too long. The production cost will be too high. You see. So we're doing our roughs. We're getting the clients to buy in and accept before we bring them in. But even then, I'd like to ask the question, what extent can AI also engage in producing those characters? Can they do the finished character? And if not, can they help with doing the rough characters? That's what I want to explore, character design. Okay? Chat GPT-4 has come up now in a way where it can help with storyboarding. But I've not yet figured it out. It still looks too rough for doing a professional storyboard like this one. Because the thing about professional work is that the specifications are very strong. All professional work specifications are very strong, and that's what makes the work professional. It's not like you can put something that looks like something. No, the client is very specific on what they want, what they don't want. Even us as animators and storytellers, we're very specific on what works and what doesn't work. It's very strongly typed. So if you have something that kind of works, it's not good enough. We have to make it exactly what it's supposed to be. So that's where some of these tools like ChatGPT starts to become troublesome. It can take a long time to get ChatGPT to be exact on what you want. And then time is an issue. It's always an issue. So yeah, we have to just experiment. So what I'm really saying is, for this work we're doing, I'd like us to explore for every one of these stages, how can AI and what AI technology can come in to instrumentally help us lower the cost and speed up the production time. Okay. Now there are some things I'm going to introduce anyway. There's some I'm exploring right now with which are good. I can see the usefulness of them, and I'd like to add them as tools. Um, and I'll start with the voice one. But once we get to pre-visualization production and these layouts, I'm going to introduce some AI, which I've seen, which is going to help to speed up these two processes. Pre-visualization takes very long, and doing animation layouts also take long. But using AI, these two times can come down. So I'm very keen to drop these times. So those are discussions we'll be having, and I want us to think like that even as we're working. Okay, but all said and done, now we're in production. I mean pre-production. So um, that's experimental. It should not now prevent us from hitting our deadlines. Like next Thursday, we need to, like on your side, purity. I'd like you to see how much of the storyboard you can have done. Technically, you can take 2 weeks, but at least you should have seen one done. Act one, sorry, act one done, at least, because 2 weeks means 1.5 acts per week. You see? So 1.5 acts next week and 1.5 acts the week after that. And we can do business with that because the moment we bring in the new team, we can talk and present 1.5 acts. We can show them that. That's okay. Then the other 1.5 can come later. That's fine. But you need to have it in the storyboarder form so that it's done to that level of finishing. Okay? So that's really what I wanted us to discuss today, to be clear on the next steps. Do you have questions on this, Purity or Nicholas? Anything you'd like to ask now? You don't have?
So by like Thursday, the first act and a little bit of act two should be done.
On the storyboard, yes. And
Okay.
then by Saturday, let's say, try to have the mood board done and also the reference board done. And like I said, it doesn't have to be done. Those are feeling, like the mood board's about feelings. So as long as you get a sense of how you feel about a scene from the mood board, that's good enough. Sometimes you can find interesting things. Like sometimes you might find an animation style that you think lends itself to our production, and you can put a shot from that. It can be not necessarily a background issue, but it's a character issue. How you feel this character can be drawn and represented. You can even put an MP4 there if you want. So those kind of things, it's about feeling the things I'd like us to take our time to do. You know, when I look at work, just to tell you, for example, when I look at work done by Disney and when I look at work done by the Europeans, the French, the Germans, they take time on these things that I'm talking about. In fact, the kind of approach I'm using right now is an approach that the Germans use, where they spend so much time on ideation and pre-production, more time on ideation and pre-production than on production. Um, that's what they do. The Americans spend more time on production, but they outsource the production these days. But companies like Disney, they spend a lot of time on production. Yeah. Sorry, someone was saying something? Yeah, Nicholas, your hand is raised.
Yeah, you could have just finished what you were saying. I just wanted to add on what you had touched on earlier, which was there's a AI called Mid Journey. It's no longer free, but it's good for things like character creation and artistic things used by artists actually.
Yeah, I'm aware of Midjourney. I so when I was using it, it was free, and at that time, it wasn't. You see, one of the weaknesses I found of Midjourney was that you can't maintain your character throughout the. Um, if you're doing a storyboard and you want to have a character doing many things, then you want to maintain your character's look and feel. So Midjourney was changing the character, number one, and then number two, it couldn't handle hands. So sometimes the character has 3 fingers, other times 4 fingers. But I think these are things they're improving on. I think if you think Midjourney should be included in our workflow, let's try it out. I mean, I'd want to check: is it able to do fingers and toes now? Can it maintain the integrity of a character, single character that we feed into it throughout the
Yeah.
entire production, different poses?
So it can maintain a character.
Mm,
It just depends how you write your prompt and
mhm.
maintain your history. So if you use one history, so you always go back to that history to maintain the character. It's just you have to know how to use the prompt to do that. It still does have issues with hands, but that's fairly improved with the latest versions that have been coming out. But the thing is, it's no longer free to pay for. So I mean, it's no longer free to use. It's now pay to use. That's the main thing.
Okay, fair enough. So we can pay for that. Just find out the cost of it. Let me know because I'm doing budgeting and meeting the client over the budget next week. So if you know that that's one of the issues we need to pay for, then just write it down so that we can get it. I think this is how to do it. You see, we'll pay for the subscription. This production is timed to last for 3.5 months. So 3.5 months subscription for Mid Journey. That's fine. If we think it's good enough to carry into other productions, then we can go for a longer subscription. So let's have a list of those things. I'm also putting down a list. Purity also put down a list of things that we may have to pay for in order for us to improve the efficiency of our pipeline. Right now, the way we want to use AI is instrumentally as a tool that is helpful to us, just like the way we use software. So if software is leveraging AI, just like Midjourney, then we will use that. But it has to be something we feel works. If it works, then we have to pay for it. It's okay because this is a paid job. Okay. Um, yeah. So if you think of anything, just feel free. I mean, this is one of those moments. I'd like us to be clear. What I'd like to ask, if you're not going to ask anything on what we're talking now, is to move on to the thumbnails. We'd left on the thumbnails, and I'd like us to be clear now. Did you guys meet to discuss the thumbnails further? Have you done further work on those? Are they complete? Have you done the thumbnails to completion? Purity?
Yes, I did work on Act 3.
Yeah.
But then, as Nicholas had said, the ending is quite. Yeah, I'm also not sure about the ending of the act.
Nicholas, did you work on the ending?
We were supposed to meet, but you didn't send me Purity's email. Maybe if Purity can drop your email on the chat, and then I can take it, and then we can see how to solve the ending.
And her number is also in the group. You know that group, ECOTALES?
Okay, so
Yeah.
so I'll grab the group.
Okay. Um, what I'd like is to, so Purity, have you put the link somewhere? The one you said for, it's a Google Drive link that you're using. I'm looking
Yeah,
for, I'm looking for that thumbnail storyboard. Have I
it's
not?
on the Google Drive.
Okay. Now the one on the drive, it never changes. It's always the same one, right? Just to understand, it's always the same one.
Uh, there is this one, the one you've shown, the
Yeah.
one you sent the link for, the production worksheet. That one doesn't change. but the one in the Google Drive, because I update it periodically depending on how Escalidro updates the link.
So you add it as an extra option. So let me just see. It's under ideation. This is under ideation, I think.
Pre-production.
What's under pre-production? Oh yes, the storyboard. Okay. Okay. I'm just going there now. Yeah, I see this thumbnails storyboard. I'm opening it now. Let me share my screen.
If you can see it, can you please share your screen?
I'm sharing now. It's opening now. So this is the one. So Purity, this is the one you're saying that never changes. This one that I've opened through the drive, right?
No, through the drive, that one changes. The other one doesn't.
Oh, I see. So, but the one that changes is the one you're saying that's more accurate because you are exporting, right?
Yes.
But if you update it without exporting, it maintains the link, right? Is that it?
I'm not quite sure. I usually just replace it just in case it doesn't update.
Okay, that's okay. So we'll use this update method. I'll link it to this page so that we use that method for the purpose of consistency. But now I've copied it and pasted it. So it comes here, replace my content. So this is the latest.
It should have Act 3 down below.
Okay. Oh, it's Act 2. Act 3. That's Act 3 there. Okay. So is it reading left to right? Or yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And then 7, 8. Oh, there's some gaps here. 9 is here. These gaps, I suppose, is a work in progress. You're going to make it, you'll close the gaps, right?
Which gaps?
You see here, like you have 7, 8.
Oh, like where 9 starts the beginning of a different scene.
Oh, I see. So I see. So scene 2 is where it starts on its own line. That's what you're saying. And then 9, then 10. I suppose 10 should be here, right? So scene 2 has its own box, and then 10 will be over here. That's what we're saying, I think. Are you there, Purity?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, what we're saying is that, for example, this box can contain scene 2 here, just for the sake of consistency presentation. So if we say here that we have scene 2 here, that's okay. Then, and also for orientation, if someone is not familiar with this story, like we're bringing in a new team, and these guys are students that I'm bringing in. I'm not bringing in professionals to look at this. You can say they're students, but professional students. Right here, Act 1, Scene 2. So it will help them with just orientation when looking at this document like this. So yeah, this can be here. So I'm asking now, is scene 10 supposed to come here, or panel 10 supposed to come here of this scene? Should we be doing that?
Yes, it's supposed to move up.
Okay.
It's
So
just numbered.
okay, that's all right. So I think numbering is more critical. Like what you've done is more critical. I'm not worried that it's work in progress. As long as we know that finally these things can be reordered, it's okay. That's okay. So now 10, then 13, 14, 15. Aha. So there'll be a set down here of 3, but I noted that you had something here. So if I go up here, yeah, it follows 16. Yeah, so I'm able to navigate it, which is good. That's good. Okay. So are there changes to what you had done last time? You said Act 3 was different. You want to present Act 3? Is it something that you've changed, or what have you changed here?
I had not done Act 3
Before. Oh, I see. So you've done
yeah.
it now. Okay. Now, Act 3 needs its own box here. You see the way you had this box here for Act 2 down here? This. So Act 3 also needs this because you're definitely starting an act, and that is also the start of a scene. So it needs to have this here. Did it come? Ha, doesn't come. So maybe I need to go and get it from down here. No. This. It's needed up here. Here. With a short explanation that this is Act 3. This. Yeah. Now you can have your explanation here to explain that this now is Act 3. Some of these look a bit wide, so let me make it narrow. Yeah. Yeah, so you can write something. I won't write now, but yeah, this then now is more complete in that sense. And this is now panel 1 actually, this one, because we'll be talking about it. You see, the reason for labeling them is to facilitate discussion on them. And this is all for professionals, it's for us. When the new team comes, this discussion is going to become bigger, where people will be referring to different parts of this document. So it's good to, what you've done is perfect, but now you need to start winding up this thumbnail in a way that can be discussed, you know? And the people coming in will understand everything here, the way you've laid it out. It's just for you to have a layout that is tidy. We can also convert this to a PDF, but we'll share this link with them so that they can also convert it to a PDF if they want. And we can now start discussions around it. Yeah, so this is now this is the Bible that we're forming. So it's very important. So if you can finish this off, maybe you can make a presentation on this purity. Can I give you the screen to share, or you want me to project?
I think I'll have better control if I share.
If you share, okay. I'll stop sharing.
Also, I did realize with Escalade Raw that if you put in too much content, it gets to a point where it can't save as you proceed. So you have to keep on saving. It doesn't save automatically. It gets to a point where the file is too large. You have to save it locally.
Oh, I see.
So I don't know how that is going to work if we're like collaborating, because you're going to find at some point somebody else has an update that I don't have.
Yeah, that's true. So we'd have to build in a business process. You know that drive that you showed me, the link where we have generated the halfway house. It's like a halfway link where you're going and posting whatever you've saved, right? So if you've saved and you can see the link is different, then I'd recommend we go and put it there on that page. Okay? But I think we have to have a rule. And the rule will be don't overwrite the previous person's work. Whatever you find that you've saved now, go and save it as the latest version underneath what you see there and put a date so that we know the latest version is always the lowest one. If we agree on that, then we can build a kind of history, a list of versions, and then we version manage whatever we're doing. If we've done something we don't like it, kabisa, we can default back to the previous version that we liked. That's the advantage of version managing. I hope you understand. It's just using that page to copy and paste any new link that we have. But if you save and it updates and it's working without problem, then that's okay. That's not bad. But the version management way might be a better way. That's how we develop software, where we have to, people design things, but it might not work. It might crash the system. It might be troublesome what you've done. It just may not be what we want to do.
I wanted to suggest
Yeah,
what we can do is,
yeah,
um, since you said once it saves, sometimes you have to create a new link.
yeah,
What you can do is, every time you put it onto the home base,
yes.
you have to write. So you write there version this and this date, so that when someone else updates it, they write version the next number and then the date. So then we can track it through the numbers.
Yeah, so that's correct. So that's the page we're talking about. And so we need a date. Yeah, you can add a number, it's fine. But that's it. So once you copy and paste to that page, we're okay. And the idea is to do it religiously. Once you know that you've created a new link, then just go and put it there underneath what was there before.
And then I also wanted to add, to avoid overwriting,
Yeah,
you can have a rule that every time you update something on the home base, you save it offline on your own computer. So in case any mistake happens, you have a backup on your computer and we can adjust.
yeah, it's good to have backups. Correct. That's all right. So, so the main thing is that we version manage on that page, and it's a good strategy, by the way. So if it works for the thumbnails, it can also work for the storyboard itself. We'll work with the storyboard in a way that we have a page where we develop a list of versions for the storyboard. Because again, the client's going to weigh in. So we have different teams. We have our internal teams, and then we're going to have the client weighing in. And that's going to introduce a variety of versions. So I think it's important that we keep on saving underneath whatever was there before. We all understand that, that's good. And I'll introduce it into the training so that everyone understands that version management of certain artifacts is important. Even of characters, we'll have to version manage those. Yeah, I can see an error on this one. Couldn't save on the backend database. The canvas seems to be too big. I see. Okay. Size of the canvas. Okay, so if does this error pop up a lot, Purity? Or it only comes when you save?
When you open, let's say for example, you're opening the version you had saved, and then you stay on that page for like 5 seconds, this pops up. So it reminds you to keep on saving the work you update. If you forget to save, it kind of logs itself out. And then the next time you open, you won't have what you had worked on earlier if you had not saved.
Oh, I see. So it's a reminder, but it comes like every 5 minutes or something.
No, just once.
Or just once. Oh, I see.
Yeah, it just starts at the beginning. Yeah.
I think what the thing is the size of the page. Maybe it would be advisable to have one of these for each scene. So this one, you just do one scene,
No, each act.
then the next one, you just do another scene. That way, it doesn't get too big in terms of size because it's an autosave error. I understand the error.
Yeah. So let's say then we do it for each act. It'll be efficient if we can make it work for each act.
Yeah, each act. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, each act is better.
All right.
Okay.
So, Purity, you're able to break this into 3 acts, and then you can drop them off on that page again. Okay. The page I'm talking about is the one we're using as a halfway house. That's the one where we'll be version managing the thumbnail. Okay. So this is all good because it's part of our business process, and I want us to be all familiar with it. Whatever we evolve as we're going, and with AI coming in now into the pipeline, new things are going to be, new methods, new processes, new steps are going to come. So they'll evolve as we go, and the AI is changing almost weekly. Depends on what we're using. So we need to have a way by which we can include things and train ourselves on exactly what we're saying, so that there's harmony in the way we're working. Okay. Yeah, I can see now what you're showing us. This is Act 3, right?
Yes, it's up 3.
Okay. All right. You can
Okay.
explain.
So, in the first panel, we get the what? Oh yeah, a minute. Yeah, the first panel is the first shot of that shows the shark, where the family is gathered around a table.
Mhm,
So here they have blueprints and notes of what is supposed to be their waste management system
mhm.
and how they plan on managing the waste. And then the camera zooms in on Shiro, who is staring or looking at the papers. So then it shifts to a close up of Njoro, who is concentrating on the paper that he's holding.
Okay. You've gone quiet.
Okay. So at first, when it zooms in on Shiro, we get a zoom in of her looking at the paper she's holding. And then in this panel 3, that's when she goes, wait. Oh, yeah, there's a voiceover of Shiro. I didn't indicate I'm seeing it now. Njoro, she talks to Njoro and Kolo, saying, I hope you behaved today. Last night's visit from the authorities wasn't just a coincidence. They're not just here to ask questions, they're here to spy on Dad. And then Njoro starts talking, the camera shifts to him. He goes, we'll have to be very careful if what Dad is proposing is causing this much trouble. Then there's something they don't want us to find out. Kolo goes, yes, we need to continue with our plans and show the effectiveness of our method. Enroll the dump city, he says jokingly, the hint of humor with how he responds to what Njoro is saying. We get to shot panel 6, where the camera is behind Juma, showing the rest of the family. Njoro goes, we can already start separating the waste and settling on up the compost. We just need to keep pushing forward. Back to panel 7. As Njoro is talking, there is the sound that disrupts them, which is the sound of approaching cars. With that, they all hear it, and then the camera change, we see the expression of the family with what they're hearing outside. The camera shifts out, and we get a low angle of the car that's arriving near the shack. So proceeding to scene 2. Scene 2 is in the dump site. And we shift to the dump site. We see Munga's team going around the dump site. There's machinery, heavy trucks, and there's just people all around that dump site on that particular day. In panel 10, we see Munga giving orders to a group of workers, and with that angry man of his, he goes, I want this entire area cleared out. No more unauthorized activities. We need to show that we are handling things properly and that we won't tolerate any disruption. The camera zooms out, and then Chebet shows up standing next to Mr. Munga because we've secured the perimeter. She is pointing out towards the perimeter she's talking about. No one gets in or out without our say-so. If those kids try anything, we will be ready. In panel 12, we see the authority and the people that were instructed by Mr. Munga moving around the dump site. We go back to the shack where we see Kolo and Njoro preparing to leave. Shiro is standing behind them, and then with a hint of she's kind of anxious about what the boys are going out to do. She goes, be careful out there. If the authorities catch you trying to implement your plan, they might get down hard on all of us. We see again the camera behind Shiro in panel 15. And then Kolo responds to her, we'll be cautious. We're just going to check on the compost and just make sure the separation is working. Side to side, the camera again, we see both Kolo and Njoro. Njoro chips in, saying we have to keep up the work. It's the only way we'll improve that our system, or will prove that our system can make a difference. So they set out to leave, and then we see this car approaching. There is that description of how the car is getting all the attention and the thing it's doing, dust rising up. And then it stops, and out of the car comes Mr. Munga. He gazes at Njoro and Kolo as they leave. They are kind of from a distance, so Njoro and Kolo don't seem to actually see him. It's just Munga looking at them. So we get a shot of Mr. Munga from behind, looking at the boys as they walk towards the dump site. And then the camera pulls off, showing the actual distance between the two parties. In scene 4, we're back again at the dump site. So in this scene, it cuts exactly to Kolo and Njoro. We see what they're doing with the compost, trying to make adjustments and everything. We get a close-up of Njoro concentrating on his compost. He goes, we need to stay focused. The more effective we show our system to be, the harder it will be for them to ignore us. Then we see Kolo responding to Njoro and gesturing out towards the dump site. I just hope we can get enough people on board. If we can show that our method really works, it might be harder for them to shut us down. Oh, delusions. So to panel 24, we see a shadow of Mr. Munga approaching the boys from behind. Yeah, Then to panel 25, he backs out, his face showing anger and disdain. He goes, "You two, don't I know you? What are you doing here? What makes you think you have the right to disrupt our operations?" The two boys hurriedly get up and then they turn. And Jero goes, "We're just trying to make a positive impact. We've seen how effective this system can be, and we want to help." Mr. Monga goes at them, "You're interfering with a larger process. If you keep this up, you might find yourself facing more serious consequences than you are prepared for." He is saying this as he glances around to make sure nobody else is listening to what he's saying. Scene 5, panel 28. Still at the dump site. Interesting. Oh yeah. So in this part, we see the officers, they have actually gotten closer to Mr. Munga and the boys. And then Inspector Leon goes, "Make sure everything they've set up is removed. We can't have the ideas spreading further." And then we see these workers literally stamping on the compost pits and destroying everything Kolo and Njoro had set up. In panel 30, it's Shiro and Juma approaching, and then they get to see everything that's going on. Right. Panel 30 was Njoro and Kolo staring at what was happening because they just couldn't say anything. And then in panel 1, that's when Juma and Shiro approach the scene. We see them in frame. Shiro tries to stop these people, saying, "Stop, you just can't dismantle everything we've worked for. We are making a difference here. We have a right to clean up our own environment. You have no authority to destroy our work." That's what Juma adds into what Shiro was saying, standing right next to her. Everything they said seems they are ignored by these people, and they continue dismantling the whole thing, the setup and everything. Back to minute. Panel 34. Mongo, on hearing Shiro, he turns towards her. "This is your final warning. Cease all activities immediately, or there will be consequences." Shiro tries. We get an over the shoulder of Mr. Monga looking at Shiro. Shiro at this point is trying to plead with Mr. Monga. "Please listen to us. We're only trying to help. If you just give us a chance." Coldly, Mr. Monga doesn't give her the opportunity to continue talking. He goes, "Enough. If you continue to defy us, you'll find out just how serious we are with this whole thing." Right then, the whole operation of destroying everything continues, and the camera zooms out to get a view of the chaos that was left behind. The boys and the family are just standing there, helplessly, not knowing what to do. And then the last scene, this is the final scene. Wait, is it the final scene? Yeah, it should be. Ooh, I think I missed something. Yeah, this is the final scene of how things are supposed to end. But I'm seeing that I missed something. There's still 2 scenes left. They're supposed to be back at the shack where they're discussing about what happened. And then, yeah, I say I missed a scene, 2 scenes. But that's it until the point where everything was dismantled.
All right. So the scene you're missing is not drawn. You're saying you have to draw it in now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I didn't draw that.
Okay. Okay, I think yeah, it's quite thorough in terms of the story. I mean, it's coming out well because I get a sense of the flow. Nicholas, do you have comments on this?
I'm fine. Not a comment. This is a statement because I'm okay with this. Uh, in this third scene, I think it's an opportunity for us to show how I think Joro Kolo, the middle, the child in the middle, how familiar he is. So his character should be not in this scene before when he's sort of spying on them, talking to his dad. He should be kind of using like secret rules. Like he should be running on the top of the buildings and jumping. He should be kind of there should be a familiarity he has with the area. But that's different than what we're really looking at now. What we're looking at now, I think, is good.
Okay, all right then. Um, Purity, any other thing you'd like to tell us? We don't hear you.
A minute, I'm trying to find that page that I was that ending page.
Or you had done it.
Pardon?
You had done something. You had done that page.
No, the page that I had seen where the ending wasn't quite. Oops.
You had designed it, right? Or drawn it.
No, I think she's talking about the script. She's saying she's looking for the part in the script where she's saying the ending wasn't quite flowing.
Okay. All right. So I generally I think we're okay. Just make sure, Nicholas, you incorporate what the client was saying about the authorities, not referencing government or local authority. Just some seniority there, but um, how we problematize, we have to think of how we represent those guys because those are the main villains, and we want to see how to bring them out. They can be gangsters if you want, but whoever they are just people who are causing the problem because they benefit from the problem. Also, the bad guys need to be credible or believable, so they can't be um, outside reality. It has to be someone who literally, if you go outside, you'll see that person. Like Kanjo, you see Kanjo. But now we don't want to associate too closely to the county government. So we have to think of a way of representing them without saying it's them. That's the main thing. If
It
you
can just be a cartel. It can be a cartel that runs the dam site. Because one thing we need to realize, this is a fictional city, dump site city. So it's part of our spectacle. When we get the background guy and everything, you need to realize that the environment is a very big part of this because that's even in our messaging. So the idea is this is a sort of city that has formed as a result of this garbage. So there's the dump site itself, which is just a dump site, and then in that dump site there's the dump site city. And in the next episode, we'll see the contrast where we'll see the other side of the city where the wealthier guys stay. The reason I'm saying this is because what do you call this? That means the dam site. When we were saying Kanjo, we're just saying Kanjo are the ones who are running that dam site. But it doesn't have to be Kanjo. They can be a bunch of, let's say, chokoras who have more money than the rest who run the dump site, so that they are sort of like the law inside that dump site. You get what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, that's good. So that's the whole idea, and we need to just let it be clear somehow in the story. So that's okay. So the main thrust of the story is there. The thing that we need to bring out in all this is the messaging of the client. And You see, when I talk to the client, I'm going to say to them that the message for this episode 1 is about organizing your garbage in ways that are collectible and disposable. And that organization comes by color coding or marking or labeling bins. And then you dispose them into these bins, and then those can be easily disposed according to plan. You see, that's the message. And then we're going to test that. We're going to, at least from an education point of view, to see if our audience has understood it. We're also going to test the engagement, the extent to which people feel that they should educate other people about this message. So, so that's what this episode's about. So that aspect of it needs to also come out strong in terms of our storytelling in all the scenes. Either it's a build-up or we have moments equally in each scene where we focus on the message. The unseen has an opportunity for us to do that. And then the scene that follows through after that, where they convene and then they start talking about the idea. But if we're going to have a climatic third scene, within Act 1 or something like that, if we're going to have a climax, then you want to think about how the message will benefit from that climax, because the climax has a strong focus of attention of our audience, and it presents an opportunity for us to put elements of the message there that are memorable, stuff we want people to remember. So that's what I'd like us to now start. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. I did have a question.
Yeah.
Like, what's the relationship between the family and these people, like the Munga, and because in Act 2, I think there's this part where Miss Chebet does seem to know about Shiro's mother. So it does seem like there's some sort of history between these two parties.
Yes. So, Nicholas, are you able to answer that?
Sorry, please repeat the question.
I'm asking, what exactly is the relationship
Sorry, it
on
cut
the
off.
side?
Cut off for a second there. What's the relationship?
The relationship between these two parties, the family and the Munga side, because in Act 2, we do see and hear Miss Chebet mentioning Shiro's mother. So, according to that scene, there does seem to be some sort of history between these two parties.
Okay,
So
yeah,
what's the
a
relationship?
good question. So I'll create a document for the backstory just so that us who are behind we know what's happening. So the idea is before this dump site city was there, um, the mother was an activist and she was against sort of this happening, getting to this stage where there's this whole city, and she was seeing it happening and she was trying to stop it. However, she died. We don't really know why or how she died, but it was mysterious. And the family moved from a middle class family to a lower class family. So that's how Shiro is a bit. She doesn't like the dump site because when she was born, she was living a different life. But the other brothers, they only know the dump site, so they have a different attitude towards it. They in fact like the dump site, and this is something we should see in their characters, that Shiro doesn't like it. Even in the beginning when the ball goes in the dump site, that's why she doesn't go for it, because she sort of like is reminded by all this. And then the father is paying off the guys who run the what do you call it, the guys who run the dump site, who are the Kanjo, but now it's changed, so it'll be the cartel that runs the dump site. He sort of has to pay money to them, but then he's secretive about it because he's trying to protect his children, and he's also embarrassed because his wife was an activist against it. But he personally, in his backstory, he feels very shameful, but he's not as strong as his wife was, so he sort of succumbed to this. He sort of sees it as him protecting his family.
Okay. And since the brothers are aged 18 and 21, what exactly do they do around the dump site?
So yeah, the two brothers, the older brother, he we see him in a different scene in town in from the next episode, that is. So we'll see him in town, and the smaller brother, he does nothing. He's just, sometimes he helps his father, sometimes he goes with his brother to town, and then Shiro really is just at home. She takes care of the house. However, as time goes on, she meets. So in the next episode, she meets the fourth character that we're supposed to introduce. That's part of this, and he's the one who gets her into the activism. But she does that. That happens where she's just doing, I think, a run for some things in town, and she meets this guy. So the only one who has something that he's doing is the middle brother, and he's really like sort of a beggar, but he also sells some things sometimes that he finds in the dump site in town.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know. Does that make sense, or is it?
Yeah, sort of, I think it does. Because honestly,
I'll
huh?
no? Say what you're saying.
In my head, I thought like the brothers probably they do work for this garbage company, because when we see when it gets to a point where they're like trying to introduce this whole point of uh, separating garbage, it's sort of like to make their work easier when collecting the garbage or when doing their work. So in my head, I thought that it's part of what they do. So they just try to make their work easier by making people separate the waste. And to the
That's
point where they get into collusion with the other side, it's because they're going against the rules of their workplace,
that
kind
in
of.
itself is a good idea. We can make the younger brother work for a garbage company, so that he sort of yeah, we can do that, because we've not yet established the second episode, so that's not yet set in stone. So we can easily give them that occupation. I think that's actually a good idea. I like that concept.
Okay.
You can even involve that in their dressing, you know, so it could be dressed in sort of an overall, company overall, so that it's always, so that we can also prepare the audience for that later when we show them where they work.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
All right. So okay. So that's good. At least we've sort of had direction on that. Um, let's agree then. Next week, um, on Thursday, Purity, try to present as much of the rough storyboard as you can. The rough storyboard we're saying is going to basically be done now using software. So um, the drawing characters will be much more precise, and also the um, shots will be much more precise. So that's one deliverable. The other two deliverables will be the reference um, boards and also the mood boards. But Nicholas, also participate in that, so that you're also contributing to the moods and the shortlist. I mean the reference
I'll
board.
add the mood board this weekend, actually. I mean, let me say, you said you're introducing guys on Saturday. Maybe tomorrow evening, I'll put something in on mood board.
Yeah, even the reference board, so that we have both of them populated. And like I said, it doesn't have to be extensive, but let something be there, so that when I start bringing in these new guys, we have something to show them that can immerse them in the project in that sense. Okay. So next week I'll introduce. These are students again, but so they'll be learning, but at the same time contributing, and we'll give roles, and we'll see how to do it at least by next week. And then after that, once next week's done, latest the week after next, the storyboard's known, The script is cast in stone. Hopefully we have client approval. The week after that, we'll focus on the sound elements. And sound design can take 2 weeks also. But if you start now, you see, once you're done with the story, Nicholas, you need to start thinking of the animatics. So start thinking of the sound effect library you're going to work with and the soundtrack. Start thinking of which one you want to use. And then we'll follow through with now the voiceovers. So by the time we're doing voiceovers, we've already known about the other aspect of sound. Okay, so that's just a kind of rough putting together of everything. Yeah, we have another meeting starting now. So, yeah, welcome, Alfan. We're just finishing off this meeting as you join us. So, if there's anything that we need to discuss, I mean, we've kind of agreed on the way forward. So, if we can try to keep to that, then next week we'll go into character design and deeper into the storyboard, the rough. So that will happen simultaneously. If there's anything we want to add, anything that I've left out that you think we need to discuss, let me know. So Purity, on your side, I need to sit with you on, you need to be examined. I'm going to set up a date for the assessment of your IBL. It might be on the weekend, but if not, it will be next week on one of the days. But I'll tell you when. So let me set it up with the assessor and then I'll let you know.
Okay.
All right. But on your side, you need to finish your book at least up to, is it up to week 12 right now? Or which week are you up to right now?
It was last week because that's when I was working on Act 3. So last week.
Last week was week 8. Or which week?
Yeah, week 8.
All right. So this is week 9. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So send me up to that week to now. You can send me up to tomorrow. And then if you give it to me by Saturday, then I can fill in my part and you can be assessed on that next week.
Okay.
All right. Okay, guys. So let me stop this recording and I'll share it with everyone.